Hello guys, and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we want to be walking through another dungeon from the point of view of my Preservation Evoker, and the dungeon is Operation Floodgate. Presumably one of the more healing intensive dungeons in the current season. There's a lot of rot damage happening, especially later in the dungeon, and it really requires a competent and knowledgeable healer in order to be able to navigate those requirements. What we want to do today is look at those problems in detail, and then especially discuss how Preservation Evokers in particular are able to deal with them. Note that we are a random group, so I don't know the people I'm playing with. In fact, I don't even speak their language, and we just found each other over the dungeon tool and are pugging this key together. What I found playing with random groups in this dungeon is that the common pull is the one we did right now, which is just gather up all the mobs that you can find on this little platform up here and lust the pull. What's special about this pull is that essentially all damage is avoidable, except for the occasional melee hits on the tank. So there's the shredation, saw blades on the ground, which, like the druid, you can avoid by standing on this crate, but it's not so good for Preservation Evokers because of the moving around that's sometimes required with the spec. Then you have the flamethrower frontal, which especially melee players need to dodge, as well as the wind-up spinning around AoE cast, and the surveying beam, which also continues into this part of the dungeon. Be very wary of the surveying beam, especially moving forward into the next packs, where individual people get rooted and then can't move out of the surveying beam. This pull is one of the easiest pulls in the dungeon, I would say. Mostly it's being done like this, where essentially you just have to be a bit wary of the tank damage. There's a couple of interrupts going on, as I remember wondering why my FPS is so low, and tabbing out to close Firefox, which I'm not sure it really helped. Something was going on in this dungeon. Yeah, anyway, we do the next pull, and now you can see the roots going out, and you can see on the Demon Hunter that he has the root debuff as well as the surveying beam, and he takes an absolute boatload of damage. Now I have the root on me. You can dispel it, as you see I did with Cauterizing Flame, once every minute, and you can also remove the root via using Rescue. So essentially the healing profile for this pull is a lot of spot healing, and again there is some potential for burst healing going on when individual players are not moving or are not able to move out of the wind-up casts by their melee mobs. But generally, you should be rather safe, and a good way to spot heal these individual players, like you can see me doing, is putting Echo on them and then using Reversion. If they have taken a lot of damage, this will proc the Golden Hour effect, which heals back a percentage of the damage they have taken over the last couple of seconds. Likewise, you can also use Reversion and then Verdant Embrace, which is also a reasonably powerful spot heal. Now this next group is a little bit more challenging to heal in that the snipers cast both Snipe, which just damages individual players for a, I would say, moderate amount of damage, and they also cast Trickshot, which can be interrupted and damages multiple players at once. You can see one Trickshot going out right now. I released the stasis, which I had stored up, and we are just fine. Generally, with these pulls, and also the last two, you can feel rather free to just use stasis. If you feel that you have to, you can also use Communion or Rewind in order to meet individual burst spikes, because none of the succeeding pulls, like the last one or this one, or even the boss pull after that, require you to have those cooldowns ready. So generally the first part of the dungeon up to the first boss is substantially easier from a healing perspective than the parts of the dungeon which are coming up in succession to the first boss. So this one again is a relatively similar pack. You have a bit of spot damage going out, but it's really not very much, and you can just focus on dealing damage yourself and then occasionally putting a heal on the players that receive some damage. Now, into the first boss. Her name's Big Mama, and essentially the snipe mechanics from the snipers which we just had continues into this boss, where the Dark Fuse mecha drones cast shoot, and you can see I have it on my unit frames. When a shot goes out over here or here, you can see who is being targeted, but you can also see that the damage compared to other damage effects over the course of this instance is very negligible. So you don't need to spot heal with Echo Reversion, for example, but you can just put some general HOTS on your team and be able to heal this damage just fine. What you need to be wary of is interrupting the cast that the ads do, Maximum Distortion, and also preparing for this big AoE effect. And the way you want to prepare for it usually is putting 3 echoes on your DPS players and then casting Verdant Embrace on yourself. You see it applies the Lifebind effect, and then you can put a big heal into this Lifebind effect, for example an Empowered Spirit Bloom or an Empowered Dream Breath. My preparation for it was actually rather poor. You could see that during the Jumpstart AoE phase I did not have sufficiently many HOTS on my teammates, so they did not benefit from reversion any longer. And I would hope that for the next one I will get my act together and more appropriately prepare. Depending on the damage that you have with your group, it also takes a different amount of time. If the damage is low, she will start pulsing a weaker form of AoE damage beforehand. And you can see one of the Maximum Distortion casts going off. I tried to interrupt, but I didn't. But it was hold on, I'll go back for just a second. It was ready. You can see me mouse over the cast, and yet I didn't interrupt. What's going on there? Huh, that's strange. So I should have interrupted, and me mouse overing the cast would suggest that I tried to do it, but although my quell is ready, I didn't. So you can see here for the second one I use Zephyr. Obviously my preparation is a little bit flawed because I had to heal the Maximum Distortion damage beforehand, but still we got through it rather fine. You can also just empower your Fire Breath and hold the Life Spark proc, so the instant cast Living Flame, and this also provides a lot of healing for your group in these pulls. And as an evoker you can also contribute not non-negligible amount of damage to killing the drones while the pull is going on with your Fire Breath, with your Deep Breath, and also with your Empowered Living Flame, which then also hits multiple target if you cast them at an enemy. And I don't think we get the Sonic Boom cast on ourselves, but it's also relatively easy to deal with as an evoker because you can just move away a little bit and then blink through it. Okay, so here comes the next jumpstart. My preparation is, yeah, well, it's acceptable, but not very good. So I did not have Lifebind on all of my teammates, but I did manage to put it on the Demon Hunter. And incidentally, you can also see that the Demon Hunter is the one who struggled the least, because he benefited from a more empowered Spirit Bloom. I am not very happy with me having used my stasis here. You can see it's still stored up. It provides an extra amount of safety, so I could just have released the stasis if I needed it at the end of the pulsing jumpstart AoE damage. But I did not need it, and I release it here because again we failed to interrupt the Maximum Distortion cast. And I think this time I did interrupt it successfully. I'm not super happy with having used the stasis because now coming up is a rather big damage fight. You can see I'm already putting the echoes on my teammate. I'm not using any globals right now because I know that the warp bloodcast is going off and I really can't do anything anymore. Maybe I could have put a reversion out beforehand, but I life bind and I cast a fully empowered Spirit Bloom in order to be able to heal this damage off. Now again, I know the next one is coming off. I already put echoes on my teammates. I hold my life spark proc, so I have 4 empowered living flames, which I can shoot out. And again, I do the life bind into Spirit Bloom, and then also release my life spark procs. I also use the health pot. If you have life bind active and the health pot actually heals something, then it will also provide a big heal to your group. But I think I probably mistimed it and used it when I myself had a high amount of HP and it didn't heal so much. But generally the effect is any healing that you receive when you have life bind on your teammates will also benefit those teammates. And that includes healing from the health pot. And now this is the second pack. I have held stasis for this pack because I did not obviously use it on the last one. And I also still have communion and rewind, and we also lost this pack. So we have a very big margin of safety in order to be able to get through it. And you can see Warp Blood is going out. I have echoes on all of my team, and then I use the life bind into communion. Communion is a very powerful AoE healing effect if it's used in conjunction with life bind. If it is used without life bind, it will just heal yourself, and only if you have full HP it will start healing someone else, which makes it a very weak spell in order to be able to counteract big AoE damage when you don't have the life bind enabled. And the reason for using communion, and that's also the reason for using communion first. So you echo your teammates, then you life bind with Verdant Embrace. Then you use the communion, because the communion requires life bind in order to be effective. And only after you communion, you cast your Spirit Bloom. Because the Spirit Bloom then may no longer benefit from the life bind effect, or it may, depending on how much haste you have in the moment. Perhaps you can still get it off in the life bind window, but the Spirit Bloom also heals a lot without the life bind. It's weaker, but it's not weak. Whereas if you have ticks of your communion outside of the life bind window, it is a relatively weak heal, especially for a strong area of effect, damage effect like the Warp Bloodcast. So that's why the sequencing was in this order. And here again, we are back to the routing, the nail guns and the surveying beams, which need to be interrupted. You can see surveying beam is on me, and then it was interrupted. If you are moving around while it's channeling, it's not that big of a threat, but if you are unable to move, then it is. One more thing I want to say about the Warped Blood casters is that I have made a slight adaptation. So quite often what you do when you prepare for AoE damage is to echo your 3 teammates, so the 3 DPS players, and then you Verdant Embrace yourself. This applies life bind to yourself and to the 3 DPS, but not to the tank. When you know that there is no AoE damage going out and the movement towards the tank is a safe one, then a superior play is usually not to life bind yourself, so not Verdant Embrace on yourself, but instead use it on the tank. And in this way, every player in the group gets the life bind effect, because it's you don't have to cast Verdant Embrace on yourself in order to get the life bind. You always get it when you cast Verdant Embrace, you and your target. So that's why it can be superior to Verdant Embrace the tank. And in this case, in this way, you can also heal the tank with your big AoEs, which is especially good in encounters where there is not only AoE damage going on, but also a lot of tank hits going out. I could also do it here, but in this case I'm very afraid of being one-shot by any of the big damaging effects on the ground and around the shredders, so I don't do that. I think where it's especially useful, but to life-bind the tank, but also dangerous, is actually in the Priory of the Sacred Flame with the Paladins. You need a lot of AoE healing, but you also usually have to do some spot healing on the tank. But then you have the risk of flying into the Consecration, so it requires a lot of positional awareness in this dungeon. Now, here, again, we have just a Shredder pack. It's rinse and repeat from before. Sometimes this pack is skipped, sometimes it's not. We decide not to skip it. And now we move on to the second boss of the dungeon, which is... yeah, it's easy and somewhat challenging at the same time. The challenge with this boss is the quick shot cast by the little I don't know what her name is, Kisa Quick Fuse. She essentially targets random players and just does some damage to them. And you need to stay on top of this damage with your healing, while also navigating the ground effects, while also being aware of the charge, so that you don't get hit by the charge. But also, what was that? That was weird. I thought he had the charge targeted correctly and then he charged somewhere else. You can see, so there's quite a bit of damage going out. And ideally, yeah, feel free to just use your stasis, put things in your stasis, and whenever you need it, you can pop it. There are usually no big AoE effects which you have to heal off. It's all spot healing, so keep HOTS on your team rolling, and then echo reversion the targets, as you can see me doing with the Demon Hunter right now, which do take some damage. Now I position myself for the charge, move out of the way, and then always keep an eye out for the charges. You can see, again, Paladin is already moving on it. So I used Rescue. That's something you can do rather well. You can rescue, you can see who gets the kinetic gel to dispel and kill the bombs. And then you can just rescue the target onto the bomb. This has two advantages. First of all, you can make sure that they don't make a mistake and don't move towards the bomb. And secondly, you also give them a shield, which sort of mitigates or reduces the damaging effect that the dispel has on the target, which is non-negligible, so people can die. It's rather important to dispel the gel quickly, because it has a ticking effect while it is applied, and it also does damage when it is dispelled. You could see I had it on me right now, and I sort of looked around for a moment just to make extra sure that we didn't have a bomb still remaining, and I dispel it not being on it, which would have been a problem. But then if there's no bombs remaining, you can just insta-dispel it in the end. And if the group is playing correctly, the second gel usually does not have a bomb remaining. Now we have one more charge. You can see the last two bombs are being cleared. Again, Druid has it. I take a moment, I look around. Okay, no bombs, so I dispel him. Now when one of them dies, and usually it's the quick fuse woman who dies first, the other one gets subsequently empowered, and the big guy just casts Wallop. It's a tank hit over and over again, and every time it gets stronger. Usually tanks can deal with this for quite a while, I have found. But when you have a DK tank, I'd be a little bit more wary, because they don't have so much mitigation, and it won't take very long for the damaging effect to be stronger than their max HP. Now this pack I find very dangerous, because you do not want to use any of your healing cooldowns on this pack, because the next boss requires a lot of healing. Yet, what I found is that many groups are not able to control the pack as well as would be necessary in order to enable you to not use any cooldowns. So here again we are on the verge of me having to use stasis or rewind or perhaps a communion. because there's quite a bit of damage going out, but we just so manage. But obviously I'm willing to commit the cooldown if it's necessary. I also have the confidence that I can heal Swampface even if I'm lacking some cooldowns, but ideally I would not want to. Now this Swampface boss is one of the more difficult healing checks in the season, perhaps together with the Candle King. And yeah, I actually remember making a very, very big sequencing mistake here in the beginning. So what I want to do is immediately stasis, tip the scale Spirit Bloom, and then put a temporal anomaly Dream Breath into my stasis. But I made the error that I used this tip the scale Spirit Bloom before I pressed my stasis. So now I have an empowered stasis, but there's no Spirit Bloom in it. There's only a temporal anomaly and a Dream Breath, which makes my healing in this phase considerably weaker. What I have found is that I find it more difficult to deal with the damage in the non-damage phase, which is this one, because in this phase I do not want to use my Spirit Bloom because I need it to be ready for this phase. So people are ticking down a bit, you can see, and in this phase then I life bind and I use a big empowered Spirit Bloom, and then I sort of manage with the Life Spark procs that I have remaining. I get pinged here because I forgot to lust on cooldown. And I use this phase, the one where less damage is coming in, for some maintenance, reapply Reversion to all targets with Temporal Anomaly, reapply Dream Breath to the targets, and then moving into the next one again, Life Bind, Spirit Bloom. And in this one, I would be then prepared to use a Reversion, if that's, a Communion if that's necessary, or also a Rewind. But it's not strictly necessary on this key level. But ideally, you would want to be ready to commit one major cooldown in every of the big phases. And the preparation then is just rinse and repeat. You can see I can't perfectly life bind right here because I did not have enough essence to cast the echoes. And I also mistimed the Spirit Bloom. Let me actually see what exactly went on here, because that was highly suboptimal. So first of all, I have 2 life binds only, and now I apply echoes, but I can't life bind. Then I start casting the Spirit Bloom, but I realize I will not get it off before the Druid dies. So I cancel the Spirit Bloom cast and press Rewind, which heals a lot, and then I use the Spirit Bloom cast afterwards. Yeah, so that was highly suboptimal. After having only put life bind on 2 targets, I should have just cast the Spirit Bloom on these 2 targets and then continued from there. Now we are back into stasis, but you can also see that I've run out of mana, so that was probably also some inefficiencies in my play. I use Disintegrate here to regenerate some mana, because I play Energy Loop. But I still have my Communion, which has a mana regenerating effect, so we are not really in any major danger. Now again, for this phase, I prepare with the life bind, and then I use Communion. Actually, Communion wasn't really necessary anymore because the boss died just when I used it. I don't need it for the fish, but still, it would be good to have sort of a safety measure. Overall, I would say I am not happy with how I played this Swampface encounter. I got through it, and the basic idea of putting life bind onto your teammates before the big damage phase with the pulsing, clapping the ground starts, and then casting a Spirit Bloom gets you through half of the phase already, and then you can sort of do whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And again, here with the fish and the backwash, this is also the first thing that I do, life bind, and then cast a big Spirit Bloom, and you essentially have paid half the rent at that point. And you can deal with the rest afterwards. But I can also see I'm a bit scared maybe here, because I don't have any cooldowns. I do not have Rewind, I do not have Communion, because I just sort of blew it a second ago without any real need for it. So what I do is I use Fire Breath Empowered, and Yeah, I wanted to say, and what I do is I keep the Life Spark procs to be able to heal the backwash damage, so I have an AoE heal in addition to the Spirit Bloom, but I did not do that. I shot out the Life Spark procs in an offensive way, which probably was a mistake. Just for safety I should have kept them, and I often do that. Again, I empower the Fire Breath, and now I keep the Life Spark procs. I prepare for the backwash, you can see, Life Bind, and I started casting the Spirit Bloom, but the fish died beforehand. Still, you should prepare, even if it's not super likely that the cast will go off, because the backwash damage is highly front-loaded, so he's not channeling or anything, he just puts out the damage, and then you have to heal it. The dot will persist even if the boss is dead, so even if it's very close and you are not, you should prepare, because if you're not prepared you will have to heal the full damage without preparation, and that remains the case even if the boss has already died. Now this is one of the easier pulls. I usually use it to regenerate a little bit of mana, because the succeeding pulls will be very mana intensive, because you have these robots which pulse AoE damage while also spawning void zones on the ground, and our tank also is in very much of a hurry, and this will cost us dearly, as we will see in a minute. Yeah, I sort of make a mistake here with the Spirit Bloom. I stand in the Void Zone and then I cancel my Spirit Bloom, so it's not perfectly played. But again, okay, I cast Life Bind. I don't really do anything. Actually, okay, I use my procs of the Fire Breath, the Life Spark procs. And now again, Life Bind into Dream Breath. And then the next one again would be Life Bind into Spirit Bloom, as our Demon Hunter gets one shot here by the AoE effects on the ground. So okay, use Life Bind. It's actually not a lot of damage going out right now, so I can also use the time a bit to regenerate some mana with Disintegrate. And now comes a really interesting decision from our tank. This was very scary. He decides, because we have so little time remaining, let's run into the boss arena with these guys, which I find is really a terrible decision, because you can see there is a huge amount of void zones on the ground which we have to dodge. I also have to be careful about line of sight for the healing, and our druid gets one shot. I don't know if you caught that. We have the Dark Fuse Inspector here, and he cast the Surprise Inspection this way, and the druid was just standing between the puddles and had nowhere to go. So we got one shot by the Surprise Inspection because there's no space for him to move around. And yeah, I sort of try to crisis heal this. I use Zephyr. I'm ready to blow all of my cooldowns, even though I know that I will probably need them for the boss. I also don't have a high amount of mana. Tank also got hit. Yeah, actually the rewind might have been a bit of an overcommitment here, but maybe a bit of a panic reaction. And then you can see that they also live for a very long time, because the Demon Hunter, the Druid died so early. So I try to manage with the usual way of applying Life Bind and then casting an empowered spell into the Life Bind, usually Spirit Bloom. And now we pull this one onto the boss, and the boss is difficult in that he immediately casts the big turbocharge AoE. So yeah, I'm a bit overwhelmed with the damage that's going on, so I cast the big Spirit Bloom. It's not properly Life Binded. Now I need to take the time to empower my Fire Breath in order to be able to shoot out the Life Spark procs, and we get through this first turbocharge damage using this strategy. But you will see that my mana is really low, and this boss has a rather high damage output, which will become a problem. Now, the Giga Zap, when it's on yourself, you can deal with it rather well by using your Renewing Blaze, and then you can, usually what I like to do, it was not properly set up at this point, but what I like to do when I know the Giga Zap is coming, I put echoes on my teammates, just in the same way that I would when the AoE damage is coming out. and then they have Lifebind and I can heal it off either with Echo Reversion spot healing, shooting my Life Spark procs, or just casting a Spirit Bloom. The Spirit Bloom cast at this point was probably a bit of a mistake, because you can see here the AoE damage phase is coming up, and I didn't have Spirit Bloom ready in order to be able to heal it. So I had a couple of globals there where I didn't really do anything. I used a reversion, I think, and I was waiting for the Spirit Bloom to come back up and then used it in combination with my Tip the Scales. So you can see again, the Giga Zap is going out. I have my Renewing Blaze active. I have life bound myself to the other target, which has the dot on them. And with this strategy, you can usually heal it rather easily. So now you can see reversions are running out on my targets, so good time to reapply them. So again, I Lifebind the Demon Hunter to myself. I didn't get the Druid because he's always standing very far away, which also makes this encounter more challenging for me. And now you can see I'm out of mana. I use Communion, set up with a Lifebind, in order to regenerate a bit of mana, but it's also not super much. And I also had a new Stasis stored, so we get through this damage phase as well. And I prepare for the Giga Zaps, putting Echoes on my teammates. And I really don't want to heal the tank right now, but I eventually decide to do, and the preparation fails. And yeah, this is a problem then. So I barely saved the Demon Hunter. And I needed to save him. If you look at the timer, it's really close. Yeah, this is a bit of a problem when playing with DKs as an evoker. They drop so low sometimes, and then you're like, oh, I'm prepared for the healing that I need to do, but I also need to heal the tank now. So I have consumed all of my echoes just to apply a reversion to the tank. So that's a big problem. And yeah, I myself almost die here to the dot, but I have the Renewing Blaze active. And yeah, I am now completely blank in terms of mana. I use Rescue in order to be able to heal to shield the Druid a little bit. And yeah, my Fire Breath is coming off cooldown. Some mana for Spirit Bloom, so I have another Life Spark proc. And yeah, we do manage to kill the boss in the end, but yeah, it was not pretty by any means. I was out of mana as I can be in the end. Yeah, but we do manage to time it. I think the decision by the tank in the end was highly questionable to pull those mobs into the boss room. There's no point really, because yeah, you can trigger the boss beforehand, I guess, but we also had a death, so a bit of an unfortunate situation, I would say. I want to look briefly at the logs for this fight. So we have the death here. From percentile-based standpoint, I went full mastery in this run. I forgot to mention this. I used House of Cards, but I didn't really use it often enough because I don't usually run House of Cards, but I thought maybe it's really good for the healing requirement because you have on button press mastery. But yeah, I don't think I used it super effectively, but this obviously puts a damper on the damage that you can do, because mastery from House of Cards is essentially only healing, but I think I did okay. And then from a healing perspective, yeah, I could have probably done better. I made some real mistakes. I will say on the Swampface boss, that was not a good performance by me. I'm not particularly happy with it, but still, in terms of death, I didn't really. You can see we have a 1 second death, a one shot, a 0.6 second death. There's just some nasty overlap here, but there's also reactively not really anything I can do about it. And then these are just one-shots. You can see the Druid in the end got killed by a surprise inspection because he had nowhere to go. Yeah, anyway, guys, thanks for watching if you made it this far. If you liked it, if you found anything insightful or interesting, leave a like, leave a comment if you have any questions. Subscribe to the channel if you like to see more of it. I will be doing more of these videos and also doing it for Oracle Priest. I think I have something in the works for that. And I also want to make some more general guides, which are not like walkthroughs, but just a more condensed form of talking about the healing in the different dungeons in Mythic Plus. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and see ya.